not in the line of work to be easily discovered or understood. It's a game intended to stay mysterious. It remains ever elusive. The moment you feel as if you have a grasp on this illusion, you'll fall right back down the rabbit hole to start it all over again.
Welcome everyone to the Magical Frequency. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing sleep in the simulation. This was an idea from another channel here on YouTube who is much larger than I am, and he is also someone who discusses simulation. It's Elmore O'Lock here, but his name is David. So thank you so much for this suggestion, because it is allowing me to now expand on some of my thoughts regarding the simulation and my checkerboard theory and how it all connects into sleep, dreams, consciousness, God, bodiness. If you are into this type of content, please make sure to hit subscribe. If you are new here, hi, my name is Chrissy. I am a simulation theorist with my own little spin on how I think and feel about the world or reality that we are currently in. I do believe that it is all a simulated environment, which is coming from mind, hence the intro that you saw, that I feel is this also an environment where everything is essentially you. And this can go down a deep thought exercise, but if you can think of everything as yourself and take perspective of what everything could possibly be. I'm talking down to what would it feel like to be this radio, because you are this radio. You created this video actually that you're watching right now, because this is all just one large reality that we are constantly in a dream state of awakening. It's almost like every time you go to sleep at night, you are in an awakening mode every time you wake up. We are waking ourselves up over and over again. You created me, I created you. Every single thing, if you could observe it as something that was created in your favor, every song that you listen to, if you listen to intently, was created for you to interpret a certain thing, feeling, or whatever it may be in this simulated environment that you did create for yourself. All of nature, all of the animals, it's all just a dream within a dream. So at night, when we actually go to sleep, we go into a deeper dream state, if you will. My checkerboard idea theorizes that phosphine, that spiraling checkerboard that you get in very psychedelic states, or if you actually stimulate your eyes by rubbing them, that is connecting us from 2D plane or what have you, infinite consciousness, into this simulated environment, something that we are all thinking of. And these are just my ideas on the subject matter. It's never going to be fully discovered because it doesn't want to be. It will go right back into newness if it is fully discovered, I would believe. We are in a constant state of reawakening ourselves. Even myself, I have fallen asleep plenty of times during this environment or during this simulated time here. That's why I ended up getting a tattoo on my forearm, because I wanted to always be able to visually, as ridiculous as that may sound to some people, represent that I always have to stay awake and aware no matter what type of situation I was in, that I'm the one that's in control, that this is my reality, and that it is something that I am all a piece of, and it is all a piece of me. And I love the saying, am I a man dreaming I am a butterfly, or am I a butterfly dreaming I am a man? And it's very much so like that. It's very trippy, very next level thinking. It can be very strange to sit and ponder upon, but it's reality and how it functions. And I'm going to show you some scientific proof for those of you that like science. I do like science. That's why I am willing to go down these rabbit holes and do this type of research and create these types of presentations, because I enjoy learning and even again coming up with my own concepts. So let's talk about the science of actual human sleep. I'm not trying to dismiss our reality and that we have existence here and that real things don't happen. We live here in this reality. I know people say it's not real, and I know what we mean when we say that. It's not in the sense that it's an illusion, that it's from our mind, a holographic projection, but it is real in the sense that we don't want to prematurely end our game. I wouldn't want to throw myself over the side of a building for funsies one day, thinking that no matter what, I would survive or something like that. I'm not going to do that. I do believe that's why we have fear, if you will, as a program built into the simulation for us to be able to interpret it and use it appropriately, not abuse it, not think that we should be afraid of everything, right? And that level of consciousness that I was talking about is just you understanding that everything is you and you are everything, and it's all interconnected. Everything, you can literally connect everything in your life somehow, some way. If you broke it down like that, it's another way to just interpret the fact that you are a part of the cosmos, the simulation, that you're the one actually creating this. And I thought that visual image really was beautifully representative of that. AI came up with that for me. I had prompted that. I thought that was a beautiful photo. We, as consciousness or God, are asleep to our infinite nature, immersed in the simulation. This identity, reality, where we see ourselves as separate individuals, is akin to being lost in a dream, where the simulation governs us rather than us governing it. Awakening here involves realizing that we are the dreamers of the simulation, able to shift, shape, and control it. So are you a sheep? Are you walking around as if you are asleep, that you are not awake, that you are not conscious? And that doesn't even necessarily mean that you believe in simulation theory or anything of this nature. That just means, are you using your wherewithal, your power of discernment, that you stand and say things with your chest, that you believe in yourself, that you know that you have the power to do anything, and you believe, you know, the main character in your life type of energy? Or are you a sheep that follows the crowd, that thinks that you're not really worth anything, that thinks that you can't achieve things, that thinks all of these kind of thoughts that just aren't really conducive to creating the best mental environment for yourself in the simulation? Because that's what I think I would call sheep behavior in this specific simulation. If it's a simulation, I know, again, we all say escape the simulation, but it's just waking up from it, realizing that it's something that is a game, that we are here to control it because we created it, and it's fun to live within the confines of this actual Earth reality and to play this Earth game. That's why we are here. So do you consider yourself a sheep? Other people have used this concept. For example, Mufti the Priestess would ask if you wanted to be a snail, if you were a snail. Same type of idea. Are you walking around just listening to what other people say, not coming up with your own thoughts, ideas? Are you just brainwashed into whatever programming you allow other people to run on you? Are you easily manipulated? Do you allow certain tactics to be used on you? So it's just recognizing that that's going on and either allowing that to exist in your reality or being awake to it and taking ownership and power over your simulation, if you will. So how do we awaken and control this simulated environment? As we awaken, we transition from being passive participants to active creators in the simulation. This is achieved through heightened awareness, meditation, intentional programming of our subconscious. I'm not suggesting that everybody has to do this. You could wake up and be completely enlightened. You could be, I don't know, Jesus. No, these folks have not spoken in such clear, blunt terms that we are in this 2024 era. Jesus said the kingdom of God is that the simulation. I don't know. It sure enough sounds like it. And nightly dreams, lucid dreaming becomes a practical metaphor and tool for controlling the simulation. As we train our mind to recognize the dream state, we can begin to influence it consciously. So I have done things like this before, do it that often. I once had a dream where after my grandma passed away, she came to me and I had a lucid dream or a dream where I could control it to a certain degree. And I remember her coming to me and she was dressed in all white linen and she was herself, but her younger self, not really young, but like a mid-age young. And I just was in shock to see her because obviously she had just passed away. And I didn't at that point vividly dream at all. I just had these strange occurrences that would happen to me from time to time in dreams. It wasn't like I had all these crazy dreams all the time. So my grandma ended up speaking to me in that dream because I had asked her in that dream, and I vividly remember being there, and I remember walking up to her and approaching her and asking her if she was okay. And the first thing she said, it was almost like it was telepathically. She didn't really speak to me, like open her mouth and verbalize. She said she was okay. And I went on to ask her another question of what is all of this? Like, where are you? What is going on? What is all of this? And said was, it is everywhere and everything. And that was all she wrote. I kind of just looked at her in that moment, felt like I sort of understood that it was just that God is everything. And I felt like I had an enlightening moment at that point. And I stepped back out of that dream and woke up the next morning completely was shocked because I couldn't believe obviously that I saw my grandmom so vividly and it felt so real. It felt like I was walking around in that dream. It felt no different than very much so the life that I'm living right now. Other senses feel like that. I even sometimes have that sense if I'm doing something that almost feels silly in this environment anymore. If I'm doing activities or if I'm doing certain things, I start to almost have like this observer effect where I'm outside of myself, seeing that it's like this weird, silly thing that I'm doing that I don't need to be doing anymore. It's a really interesting feeling once you start taking your life through this lens or seeing your life through this lens. So I do believe in the ability to lucid dream and to be able to manipulate and control your dreams and even create future states in your dreams for yourself to be able to come to fruition in the simulated environment here in the Earth 3D environment when you wake up or whatever. So let's talk more about the science of dreams. On a smaller scale, our nightly sleep mirrors this process. We experience NREM, non-rapid eye movement, and REM, rapid eye movement sleep cycles. These stages hold the keys to unlocking control over both the nightly dream and the simulation itself. That's why there's so many popular things about falling asleep, and we'll discover that a little bit later. But for now, let's talk about the sleep cycle. You get into that REM sleep, and there are actually 4 stages of this sleep that we go into, and there's specific stages where you are waking up and falling asleep called hypnagogia, or the other one from waking up called hypnopompia. I hope I said that right. It's often associated with bursts of creativity, insight, and connection to the subconscious. This is where a lot of those stories that you hear people come up with, and we'll get into those later too, of creativity when they're falling asleep and waking up. So then there's stage 2 and stage 3 of NREM sleep, and they're all associated as well with different waves, brain waves of activity. Those lower states where you're going into sleep is associated to alpha and theta waves. I think that's also why it's important to do those visualization exercises right as you are falling asleep. NREM is where the mind consolidates memories and organizes information, suggesting that even in this seemingly passive state, the simulation is being programmed with the day's impressions. They always say things back in the day, if you've ever heard people say, like, don't fall asleep angry. This is why, because you don't want to fall asleep with things or images or thoughts that you don't want going into your hypnagogic state and then potentially showing up in your simulation. I'm not claiming that this happens every time, because there's been plenty of times where I have wacko dreams and it's just like a free ride and it has nothing to do with anything. But there's been plenty of times where I have thought of things and strange things have happened that I didn't really want to happen, but I knew I thought of it and it was weird that happened. So I know that this works, and obviously I can't tell you how many times I have quote unquote fallen asleep to the wish fulfilled, like quoted, and I have received or whatever the things that I wanted. Of course, with action in the sim, but the action was aligned action that felt like action that I wanted to do to be able to get to a next level or goal in my life. So REM sleep, this is the dreaming stage marked by vivid imagery, storylines, symbolic experiences. In the context of the simulation, REM mirrors our ability to wake up within the dream. Lucid dreaming, where we begin to realize that the dream is a construct of our mind and thus malleable. So you can go into lucid dreaming situations and be astral projecting or stuff like this, flying through other areas. You can, and I like to be able to envision myself in whatever type of consciousness that I could potentially envision. This might sound nuts to somebody, but could you envision your perspective as an ant or something like this? Thought exercises where you are imagining yourself from a specific perspective that is so far different from your own, and what that would actually be like. You can lucid dream about things like this and have the sim show you all kinds of different things, just like we're actually doing here in the reality for ultimate consciousness over and over again. It is dreamed up this situation so it can continue to have experiences over and over again. That is the point of the simulation. It is to experience. The point of dreams is to experience. The point of the illusion is to be able to come down and have tangible, seemingly tangible experiences that we are able to co-create for ourselves in this game of reality, in this simulated environment that we call the universe. So let's tie some of this into my checkerboard theory. The checkerboard represents the phosphene visuals that emerge when we close our eyes or stimulate optic nerves. These patterns are not random. They're like the building blocks of the simulation, much like pixels in a digital display. So let's connect that to REM sleep. During REM sleep, the mind generates vivid imagery akin to phosphene visuals, bridging the subconscious and conscious states. Focusing on checkerboard-like patterns during meditation can act as a loading screen for assessing the simulation's core programming. I have discussed this before in some of my older videos, but this is why the mechanism that Joe D uses, the kaleidoscope, I believe that's why that works. And it doesn't have to be a checkerboard. I'm not claiming this has to be a checkerboard to work every time. I'm not even claiming that any of this has to work for you. You could just wake up in the morning brand new and just do whatever you want and have your simulation work for you. All these techniques, all these tricks, all these different things, it's just for funsies in the simulation. Don't take it like super serious. Do whatever works for you. If you feel like working super hard and having a labored life is what you came here to do, then that's what you believe, then that's what you'll have your simulation show you. If you believe in your heart that the simulation is not here to show you that, it's here to show you fun, that it's here to show you a good time, your simulation will start to shift. But it's all about your inner thoughts, your inner dialogue, your actions, how you behave. It's like all of these things combined together, but understanding that there's levels of consciousness to that it's just not this baseline acceptance that you were at the mercy of the simulation, quote unquote. I don't believe that we are. I think we have full control over what's happening. It's just up to us to open or realize it more and not be fearful to take certain risks. And even if we do take those risks, it's just God realizing itself, or an experience realizing itself, and no experiences are technically good or bad. It's whatever you deem them. Somebody could think that being in a situation that is a struggle for a few years, like being homeless, they could look back on that and think that is a situation that is a strengthening point for them. Or if they were in a situation where they lost somebody, they were able to then love somebody else and comfort and show that type of love to somebody else that needed it. So it's just one big cycle. It is one big ball of experience. We are just constantly dreaming up more and more experiences so we can use these things to help us control our simulation if we need it. Lucid dreaming induction. Use reality checks during the day, such as, am I dreaming? Over time, this habit carries into your dreams. I have done this before. I've also done things where I have asked the person in my dream that they knew that we were in a dream and that I created them. Usually they don't answer me. It's like trippy. It's very strange and weird. I've only done that like once or twice. I don't lucid dream that often because I think maybe it's because I don't want to, because I do get like tripped out over certain things, because I've had some experiences come to me and then I'll get trippy about them. And then I think because I get weirded or feared or whatever to that program that might be stepping in, it like, I don't know, it just goes away. I have felt what seemed like presence in my presence, but what really happened is that a freaking ghost. I don't know. It probably could be, but because I get freaked out, or as if there's like some piece of consciousness trying to come and talk to me or something, but because I get freaked out sometimes, it will disappear. Just like before when I was talking about that hallucination trip that I had on LSD the one time, I was able to create things instantaneously in the simulation, but as soon as I started to get scared or freaked out, it definitely instantaneously then went away. So I know that fear has a large key role to play in this as well. And I think that it's a program that if we master it and know how to use fear properly, we will be able to maneuver our simulation this much more. Let's dig into more science. And I want to shout out another channel here in the YouTube realms, The Real Javier Novoa. And he is very interesting, and he put out a video the other day talking about science, because many people feel like they have to have a scientific background to understand this, or they need to understand the science, or somebody with a scientific background has to explain it, or it needs to be logical, or it needs to make it make sense. But do you understand how everything else in this universe works? I'm sure you are driving something, or you're using something that you don't understand how it works, just like probably the phone you're watching me on. You don't truly understand how any of that works, but that doesn't mean that it can't possibly be true, or that this belief isn't real. And I'll even tell you, tie the thing back into this whole thing later, further proving how this is all one big dream and simulation. So he talked about that, and I really enjoyed that video, because again, you can't always prove anything, because science is some stuff we're making up, and we're just saying because I can do this 10 times now and I've observed it, it's now science. So, and I've tested it, and other people have observed it. We call this science. Some of the science shows that when you're in that sleep spindle stage, and that is that transition from when you're going into that hypnagogic state, or when you're falling in and out of sleep, especially if you don't fall asleep for a really long time, that's why the naps are important, because it seems as if when you stay in those first levels of sleep, like that stage 1 and stage 2, and you don't prolong yourself outside of that, you can get really good creative ideas there. You can maybe do some programming there. Recent research by Matthew Walker and his research team, University of California, Berkeley, showed that sleep with spindles are associated with a refreshment of our ability to learn. This research showed that the greater the number of sleep spindles produced by napping participants, the more they were refreshed to perform on a learning task. Further, the brain areas most involved were the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. These are the areas that are critical for learning. That just goes to show you that there's something that is going on in the backgrounds of your brain to be able to show the simulation, to be able to show the projection the next day, what you were dreaming of that night, or what you were falling asleep to that night, what you were thinking of, what you were visualizing, what you were pondering upon, what you were, dwelling upon right as you fell to sleep. Often to sleep, the way you want to leverage these things is by practicing these type of different meditations. You can use any number of meditations that you find great in your reality, in your simulation. You can make your own. You don't need to follow anybody else's. You are your own guru. So make your own if you want to. There are great ones out here. And when you listen to them, you can set the quote unquote intention, which I like to say, you're just saying, this is a program that I'm about to set, and this is how I'm going to have my day go tomorrow. And you can use affirmations. There are so many different ways to get into the state when you're falling asleep. There are 1,000,001 techniques on how to do different things like this before you fall asleep, but realistically, you don't have to do any techniques if you don't want to. As long as you kind of fall asleep thinking about something that you want or desire, or you want to expand into, when you visualize those things before you fall asleep, and you can just think about them, just come up with different ways to conjure them in your head. That's why magic works. That's why those do incantations or spells. They're just conjuring up thoughts, images, intentions, all this stuff, speaking it into existence. So the sim is picking up on that and then is beginning to shift you, but you can hone in on this specifically while you're falling asleep. And there's different brain waves to take into consideration, as I did mention before. Alpha and theta are really good for that creative method, that idea where we're initially falling asleep, trying to wake ourselves up. We'll talk about some of that later, but we get into theta and delta when we're in that deeper sleep, if you will, that 3 and 4 sleep level. And those are different brain levels or activities where I believe if you get deep enough and you're not dreaming and all this, you're back into the sleeping state. You are God consciousness or whatever back asleep. You are maybe back at home state. You are back in the ethers. You are unplugged while you're sleeping. And then once you wake back up, your consciousness basically reboots into your avatar. That's why the whole, I think, acting brand new thing works a lot. Stage 1, you're entering into altered states. You can prime your mind with that checkerboard visualization like I talked about before. Stage 2 is conscious programming. Use binaural beats. Use affirmations. I have tracks with binaural beats that I listen to that I play for overnight. Those are wonderful as well. And stage 3, trust the process of the subconscious alignment with the simulation. And how about stage 4 with conscious creativity? Lucid dreaming techniques allow you to test drive control of both the dream and the simulation. You could probably create lucid dreaming situations in your mind, like I was saying, and have that play out for you in the simulation. That's another technique you can utilize to be able to shift your sim. But lucid dreaming is also just another way to be able to do things that you can't, quote unquote, believe, feel, do, whatever in the normal, this like 3D simulated environment, quote unquote. So let's get into the part where we talk about people. This is like the coolest part. Let's talk about some scientists and inventors. Einstein credited his theory of relativity to moments of deep thought bordering on sleep. He would reportedly hold an object in his hand, drifted to sleep. The falling object would wake him, allowing him to capture insights before full unconsciousness. Edison used a similar technique. He held metal balls while sitting in a chair. As he drifted into hypnagogia, the balls would fall, wake him, allowing him to harvest ideas from this creative state. Dmitri Mendeleev. The periodic table of elements reportedly came to him in a dreamlike state. As he drifted in and out of sleep, he saw the elements arranging themselves into patterns we know today. How about Nikola Tesla? He claimed that many of his ideas, including breakthroughs in electricity, came to him while in the hypnagogic state. He described vivid mental images of machines and inventions during these moments. Let's talk about some artists. Salvador Dali, he utilized this state, holding a key above a plate as he dozed off. The clatter of the key hitting the plate would wake him, allowing him to capture surreal ideas that inspired his art. Edgar Allan Poe did it. He apparently was inspired for his, creepy, haunting works, and he referred to it as the borderland of sleep. So that's another little way we can talk about that or describe it. The borderland of sleep, the borderland of unconsciousness. And how about the guy for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? Came to him in a dreamlike state. Once again, that whole checkerboard, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, black and white. It's all like connected for me. How about athletes and performers and mystics and philosophers? Michael Jordan, everybody talks about him. He visualized these shots before they happened. He's winning races before falling asleep and then actually winning the race. Carl Jung also explored this state for insights into the psyche and the collective unconscious. He believed this state connected individuals to archetypal energies within the quote-unquote simulation of the human mind. There's just so many other things, like mathematicians believe they've gotten insights from this. I've even claimed that I've gotten insights from being in this drowsy state, meditative state. And to make it wrapped full circle, Steve Jobs often meditated before sleep, using that hypnagogic state to spark creative breakthroughs, such as design and functionality of Apple products. Like I said, this all completely ties back. And I just want to end this with two of the biggest folks in the manifesting community is Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy. Goddard encouraged people to use the state akin to sleep to imagine their desires fulfilled. Many of his followers report manifesting wealth, relationships, and success by visualizing during the state. And how about Joseph Murphy? Murphy taught that the moments before sleep are ideal for planting desires in the subconscious mind. He shared numerous stories of people manifesting healing, financial abundance, and relationships through this method. There are so many folks that talk about Neville Goddard and falling asleep to the wish fulfilled. There are so many different methods that he came up with, or different things he talked about in his different lectures that were just ideas and concepts that you can actually come up with on your own as well. Just come up with off the wall ways that you could imagine somebody telling you that you achieve something if you want to, or it could be one of the most realistic. It's up to you. Most times I think people work with something that's realistic because it feels real to them. So maybe your mom or your sister or your brother or your best friend or whomever, email, a phone call, whatever, somebody giving you some sort of good news. These were the type of techniques he heavily gave lectures on, and people loved him for, and still do to this day, as well as Joseph Murphy. He is also a beloved guru in this community, touting that you can use that state right before you fall asleep to reprogram your subconscious mind. Let's bring this all back to my simulation and checkerboard theory. These states represent moments where the subconscious hacks into the simulation's code. The brain's patterns during these states, aka the checkerboard theory, offering a bridge between conscious input and simulated output. These is practical techniques out here. Picture the checkerboard or specific symbols related to your goal before falling asleep as well. Have it on the visual screen and then fall asleep to it, or have it drowsy and then right before you're about to sleep have it on, and then you can turn it off, or continue with some sort of subliminal or affirmation just playing in the background as you fall asleep. You could have any type of affirmations relative to something that you specifically want, what have you. It's all what feels comfortable and good to you. Some people don't use affirmations at all. A lot of times I will just use meditation music, and I will think of my own visualizations alongside the meditation music. And I'm going to end it with hallucinogens are also another way to think of this all as a dream. If you've ever experienced them, they will further show you how truly dreamlike this simulation actually is. I'm convincing anybody to do anything like this. I'm not saying that you have to believe that this is a simulation. I'm not saying or suggesting that you do anything of this nature. I'm saying that you can trust me, at least from my perspective, that did show me that it was a quick, instantaneous, moving visual ride, that as soon as I thought of something, it would come up, and as soon as I got fearful and freaked out, it would disappear. And that happened in 100% real time, and you can check that story out here. And I hope you did enjoy this video, and I hope that this video awakens you to your simulation, and that you know that this is all a dream that you've created for yourself, that I've created for myself, that I'm waking you up, that you're waking me up, that everything in your simulation is actually a way to awaken you over and over again from this dream state, so you can recognize that you actually are the creator of the dream, and that no matter any guru, no matter any type of literature, any type of self-help, any type of religious text, it's all actually from you, directing you to wake up. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video. And until the next time, guys, I hope you all continue to manifest magic and resonate on your highest frequency. Bye, guys.